The great towers of Nexus Prime reached into the purple sky like crystal fingers trying to touch the stars. Inside the largest tower, beings from across the galaxy sat in a circle of floating chairs. Their meeting had been going on for hours, but nobody seemed tired. After all, when you live for thousands of years, a few hours meant nothing. Commander Zix floated in his chair, his blue skin glowing softly in the dim light. He was from the Etherian Collective, one of the most powerful groups in the Galactic Council. His three eyes looked at the holographic display showing a small blue planet in a distant corner of the galaxy. Earth, they called it in their files, Sector 7 Delta in their official records. The primitive species on this world continues to develop. At an alarming rate, Zix said in his musical voice. They have created weapons that can destroy entire cities. They have built machines that fly through space. They have even established permanent structures in orbit around their planet. High Counselor Vorth made a sound that might have been laughter if he had vocal cords like humans. Instead, the crystal being just vibrated at a frequency that other council members understood as amusement. His body was made of living diamond, harder than any metal the humans had ever discovered. To him, these soft meat creatures were nothing more than insects. You worry too much about these animals, Vorth sighed. Every species goes through this phase. They discover fire, then metal, then they split the atom. Most destroy themselves before they become a real problem. The few that survive usually worship us as gods when we make contact. Zix was not convinced. But their development speed is unprecedented. Most species take 3,000 years to go. From basic agriculture to spaceflight, these humans have done it in less than 10,000 years. Some of their recent advances happened in mere decades. Around the circle, other council members showed various signs of boredom. The Vorthak representative, a creature that looked like a giant insect wearing armor, clicked his mandibles impatiently. The Crystalline Empire delegate, similar to Vorth but made of green crystal instead of diamond, pulsed with dim light. They had been watching primitive species for millions of years. This was just another routine report. What do you propose we do? Asked the Vorthak delegate. Continue to watch them for another 1,000 years? We have more important matters to discuss. Vorth's diamond body brightened as he considered the options. The Galactic Council had 3 standard procedures for dealing with developing species. First was continued observation until the species either destroyed itself or became advanced enough for controlled contact. Second was early intervention to guide development along acceptable paths. Third was termination if the species showed signs of becoming a threat. I propose we initiate first contact protocols, Vorth announced. It is time to bring these humans into our civilization as a subject species. They show enough development to be useful but not enough to be dangerous. Meanwhile, far away on Earth, Dr. Lisa Grant was having trouble sleeping. She had been working late again in her laboratory at the International Space Research Facility. The coffee had gone cold hours ago, but she barely noticed. The data on her screens was too interesting to ignore. For the past 6 months, her team had been detecting strange energy patterns from deep space. The signals were too regular to be natural, but too complex to be simple radio waves. They came from multiple directions and seemed to follow some kind of pattern that her computers could not decode. Still here, Lisa? Dale Ryan Blake walked into the lab carrying 2 fresh cups of coffee. He was her research partner and one of the few people who took her work seriously. Most of their colleagues thought they were wasting time looking for signs of alien life. Look at this, Lisa said, pointing to her screen. The signals are getting stronger. Whatever is sending them is either getting closer or using more power. Ryan set down the coffee and studied the display. Have you considered that these might not be communication signals? They could be some kind of scanning technology. Lisa felt a chill run down her spine. Scanning for what? Maybe someone out there is watching us? Back on Nexus Prime, the Council had reached their decision. The vote was unanimous, as it usually was when Vorth made a proposal. The Crystalline Empire controlled too many resources for other council members to oppose them openly. Very well, Vorth announced. The quarantine on Sector 7 Delta is hereby terminated. I assign this task to the Vorthek hegemony. Admiral Krex, you will take a standard first contact fleet to this system and begin integration procedures. Admiral Krex's insect-like head bobbed in acknowledgement. How much resistance do you expect? Vorth's laugh vibration filled the chamber. They are primitives with crude chemical rockets and metal weapons. Show them one of our ships, and they will surrender immediately. If they resist, disable a few of their military installations. That usually convinces them to be reasonable. The council members began to disperse, already thinking about other matters. None of them paid attention to the small device hidden in the shadows near the ceiling. It was smaller than a human thumbnail and completely silent. It had been recording everything for the past 3 hours. The device was human technology somehow. Advanced enough to penetrate the most secure facility in the galaxy. Its presence should have been impossible, but there it was, faithfully transmitting everything back to Earth through quantum entanglement communication that even the Council did not fully understand. On Earth, Lisa Grant was looking at her screens when the transmission arrived. The translation software was still crude, but the message was clear enough. They were coming, and they did not come in peace. The sleeping giant was about to wake up, and the galaxy would never be the same. Admiral Krex stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the small blue planet grow larger on the main screen. Behind him, 2 other massive ships followed in perfect formation. Each vessel was over 3 kilometers long and equipped with weapons that could crack a planet's crust. To Krex, this mission was almost boring in its simplicity. Sir, we are receiving multiple communication attempts from the planet's surface, his communications officer reported. They seem to be using primitive radio waves. Ignore them, Krex ordered. We will speak when I am ready. The 3 ships took position above Earth's major population centers. Krex had done this hundreds of times before with other primitive species. The key was to demonstrate overwhelming superiority immediately. Fear made integration much easier. Open a channel to all their communication networks, Krex commanded. Time to introduce ourselves. On Earth, every television, radio, and computer screen suddenly displayed the same image. Admiral Krex's insect face filled billions of screens, as his translated voice spoke in every human language simultaneously. Primitive inhabitants of the 3rd planet, you are now subjects of the Galactic Council. Prepare for integration into our civilization. Resistance is futile. In the White House, President Helen Carter stared at her emergency briefing screen in disbelief. Around her, military advisors and scientists scrambled to understand what they were facing. General Jake Morrison was already on the phone with military bases around the world. Madam President, our satellites show 3 massive objects in stationary orbit, Morrison reported. Each one is larger than our biggest aircraft carrier. Our weapon systems cannot get a lock on them. Dr. Lisa Grant burst into the briefing room without waiting for permission. Madam President, I need to speak with you immediately. My team has been tracking these ships for months. We know they're coming from a massive galactic empire. President. Carter looked at the young scientist with tired eyes. Doctor, right now I need to know if we can fight them. Our conventional weapons are useless against their shield technology, Lisa said quickly. But I think we might have found a weakness. Before Lisa could explain, the alien ships demonstrated their power. 3 brilliant beams of energy struck military bases in Nevada, Germany, and Japan simultaneously. The bases simply vanished, leaving only smooth glass craters where they had been. No explosions, no radiation, just complete disintegration. The message was clear: surrender or face extinction. But humanity's response surprised Admiral Krex. Instead of panic and immediate surrender, the humans began evacuating their cities in an organized manner. Military forces took defensive positions while civilian populations moved to prepared shelters. Most shocking of all, the various human nations began working together instead of fighting among themselves. Sir, this is unusual, Krex's tactical officer observed. Most species either surrender immediately or descend into chaos. These humans are coordinating a unified response. Captain Amy Foster had been chosen to lead the first communication attempt with the aliens. Her background in international diplomacy made her the best choice for an impossible job. Standing in the communication center of the USS Defiance, she opened a channel to the alien flagship. "This is Captain Amy Foster representing the United Earth Defense Force. We wish to establish diplomatic contact." Krex was amused by the humans. Formal tone. "There is nothing to discuss, human. You will prepare your population centers for collection and sorting. Those suitable for our purposes will be relocated to work facilities. The rest will be processed." "Processed?" Amy asked, though she suspected she did not want to know the answer. "Your genetic material is useful for our bioengineering projects. Do not worry, the procedure is usually quick." Amy felt her blood turn cold but kept her voice steady. "We decline. Your offer, Earth is not available for conquest." Krex's laugh sounded like grinding metal. "You decline? You have no choice in this matter. Then you leave us no choice but to resist." The first collection raids began at dawn. Vorthek transport ships descended on major cities, deploying soldiers to gather human specimens. What they found waiting for them changed everything. In New York, former Navy SEAL Tony Rivera had organized the subway tunnels into a maze of defensive positions. When the first Vorthek soldiers entered the underground, they found themselves facing coordinated resistance from fighters who knew every inch of the terrain. The aliens had energy weapons and armor that could stop human bullets, but they had never faced enemies who used the environment itself as a weapon. Collapsing tunnels, improvised explosives, and hit-and-run tactics turned what should have been simple collection raids into bloody battles. "These humans are fighting like they have nothing to lose," reported a Vorthek squad leader. "They sacrifice themselves to protect others. They set traps that kill our soldiers even when it means their own death." Similar reports came from around the globe. In London, human fighters had turned the ancient sewer system into a fortress. In Tokyo, civilians had evacuated through subway tunnels while military forces held choke points with desperate courage. In Cairo, resistance fighters used the pyramid complex as a base, forcing the aliens to fight in confined spaces where their technological advantages meant less. The breaking point came when Tony Rivera's team managed to bring down a Vorthek transport ship using nothing but salvaged military explosives and pure determination. The sight of human fighters examining alien technology sent shockwaves through Krex's fleet. "Sir, the humans have captured one of our ships," the tactical officer reported with something approaching panic in his voice. "They are somehow breaching our hull defenses." Krex studied the tactical display with growing unease. His casualties were mounting while the humans seemed to adapt their tactics with every engagement. They learned from each battle, sharing information across their global network faster than his own forces could adjust. "Withdraw all ground forces to minimum safe distance," Krex ordered. "Prepare orbital bombardment systems." But even as his ships pulled back, Krex knew this mission had already failed. These humans were not like other primitive species. They did not break under pressure. Instead, they seemed to grow stronger with each challenge. On Earth, Dr. Lisa Grant's team worked frantically to analyze the captured alien technology. Working with engineer Pete Collins and quantum physicist Dr. Karen Wells, they had discovered that the alien shields operated on specific harmonic frequencies. "If we can disrupt these frequencies, their shields should fail," Lisa explained to General Morrison. "We need to build a weapon that can generate the right kind of interference." "How long do you need?" Morrison asked. "Give me 12 hours. Morrison looked at the reports of alien ships preparing for bombardment. "You have 6. In orbit, Admiral Krex prepared his final ultimatum, but he no longer felt confident about the outcome. These humans had already proven they could adapt and fight back. What other surprises might they have waiting? Admiral Krex stared at his communication screen in disbelief. High Counselor Vorth's crystal face showed no emotion, but Krex could sense the growing impatience in the way the light pulsed through his diamond body. "You are telling me that a primitive species has inflicted casualties on Vorthok forces?" Vorth asked. These humans have no energy weapons, no shield technology, no faster than light travel. That is correct, High Counselor, Krex replied reluctantly. But they possess something we did not expect. They adapt their tactics with extraordinary speed. Each time we develop a counter to their strategies, they change their approach entirely. Vorths. Laugh vibration carried across space. You are making excuses, Admiral. These are animals with crude metal projectile weapons. Use standard subjugation protocols and finish this task. High Counselor, I respectfully request additional support ships. These humans are unlike any species we have encountered before. Request. Denied. The Galactic Council will not waste resources on primitives. Complete your mission, Admiral, or I will find someone who can. The communication ended, leaving Krex alone with his doubts. Around him, his bridge crew worked quietly, but he could sense their unease. They had all seen the tactical reports. The humans were not behaving like a primitive species should behave, on Earth. Dr. Lisa Grant stood in her makeshift laboratory, surrounded by pieces of captured alien technology. Her team had been working without sleep for 18 hours straight, but they had finally achieved a breakthrough. The shield generators operate on a quantum harmonic frequency, she explained to the assembled military leaders. We can disrupt that frequency using modified radio transmitters. General Morrison studied the crude device her team had built. Are you certain this will work? Only one way to find out, Lisa replied. The test came sooner than expected. Alien forces had surrounded the research facility, preparing for one final assault to recapture their technology. Colonel Danny Price positioned his defensive forces around the building while Lisa's team made final adjustments to their frequency disruptor. Here they come, Price reported as Vorthok soldiers approached behind their energy shields. Doctor, any time now would be good. Lisa activated the device. The air filled with a high-pitched whine that made everyone's teeth ache. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the alien shields flickered and disappeared entirely. Shields are down, Price shouted. All units, open fire! The effect was devastating. Without their energy protection, the alien soldiers found themselves facing human weapons for the first time. Their armor could stop some bullets, but concentrated fire from multiple directions overwhelmed their defenses quickly, within minutes. The humans had captured 3 alien soldiers alive and recovered several pieces of advanced technology. The interrogation of the first living alien prisoner in human history revealed information that changed everything. Your species is part of something called the Galactic Council. Amy Foster translated as the alien spoke through a captured communication device. They control thousands of star systems and billions of beings. President Carter looked at the insect-like creature with a mixture of fascination and fear. How many species are part of this council? Hundreds of member species, thousands of subject species, the alien replied. Your world was designated for integration. Resistance will only bring more ships. How many more ships? Carter asked. The alien's mandibles clicked in what might have been amusement. Enough to turn your planet into glass. But Carter was not intimidated. Then we'll have to make sure they can't use those ships. The president's words launched the most ambitious project in human history, using the captured alien technology. Human engineers like Sam Martinez began the seemingly impossible task of reverse engineering faster-than-light travel. The principles are actually quite simple, Martinez explained to a room full of the world's brightest scientists. They fold space-time using controlled gravitational fields. We can build something similar using their power sources. While the engineers worked on spacecraft, other teams focused on weapons. The frequency disruptor technology was refined and weaponized. Human factories began producing shield-breaking devices as fast as possible. The aliens made one final attempt to recapture their lost technology. Admiral Krex personally led an assault on the research facility, bringing his most powerful weapons to bear. The attack began with orbital bombardment that turned the surrounding landscape into a burning wasteland, but the humans had learned to think like their enemies. The real research facility was hidden underground, connected to the surface. by a network of tunnels. When the aliens landed to search the ruins, they found themselves walking into the largest trap in military history. Fighter pilot Maria Santos led a squadron of converted civilian aircraft armed with shield disruptors, working in coordination with ground forces led by Colonel Price. They managed to bring down 2 alien transport ships and damage Krex's flagship. The decisive moment came when Santos and her wingmen managed to penetrate the flagship's hangar bay. Fighting their way through the ship's corridors with nothing but portable weapons and determination, they reached the ship's main computer core. The data they recovered contained star charts, military codes, and most importantly, the technical specifications for the planet-killer weapon that the Vorthak had been preparing to use against Earth. "This changes everything," Lisa Grant said as she studied the alien files. "With this information, we can build ships that can reach their home systems. We can take the fight to them." Admiral Krex watched his surviving ships retreat from Earth, albeit with a growing sense of dread. Half his fleet was destroyed or captured. Worse, the humans now had access to Vorthak military technology and star charts. His final report to the Galactic Council was brief and terrifying. "The humans have acquired faster-than-light travel capability. They possess our military codes and know the locations of our key installations. High Counselor, I believe we have made a terrible mistake." Vorth's response was immediate and furious. "Impossible. No primitive species can master interstellar travel in a matter of months. High Counselor, these humans are not like other species. They learn faster than should be possible. They share information instantly across their entire population. They seem to have no fear of death if it serves their greater purpose. You are relieved of command, Admiral. Report to Nexus Prime for disciplinary action." But Krex never made it to Nexus Prime. 3 days later, his retreating ships encountered something that should not have existed, a human fleet of 12 crewed, but functional faster-than-light vessels. The battle was short and one-sided. The humans had learned everything they needed to know about Vorthak tactics and weaknesses. When the last alien ship was destroyed, the humans carefully collected all the wreckage and survivors. The message they sent back to the Galactic Council was simple but chilling. "We know where you live. We are coming." On Nexus Prime, High Counselor Vorth stared at the message for a long time. For the first time in his 1,000-year life, he felt something he had never experienced before: fear. The emergency session of the Galactic Council had been in progress for 6 hours. Reports flooded in from across their vast territory, each one more disturbing than the last. Human ships had appeared in 17 different star systems simultaneously, striking strategic targets with precision that should have been impossible for a newly spacefaring species. "How can primitives launch coordinated attacks across half the galaxy?" demanded the Etherian representative. "They only achieved faster-than-light travel 6 months ago." High Counselor Vorth studied the tactical displays with growing alarm. The human attacks were not random raids but carefully planned strikes against specific targets. Mining facilities, communication relays, and supply depots had been hit with surgical precision. "They are using our own star charts against us," Vorth admitted reluctantly. "Somehow they have gained access to our most classified strategic information." Commander Alex Wright stood on the bridge of the Liberty, humanity's first purpose-built warship. Around him, his crew worked with quiet efficiency as they approached their target, Kepler Station, a major Vorthak mining operation in the Centauri sector. "Tactical report," Wright ordered. 12 enemy ships in defensive positions around the station, replied his tactical officer. "They're using Standard Council Formation 7. Wright smiled grimly. "Then they haven't learned anything. Yet all ships implement Tactic Alpha 7. The human fleet split into 3 groups, approaching from different angles at maximum speed. It was a maneuver that violated every principle of space combat the aliens knew. No sane commander would divide their forces when facing superior numbers, but humans had never been accused of sanity by galactic standards. The lead group, commanded by Lieutenant Commander Beth Clark, drew the alien defenders away from the station. As the Vorthak ships moved to intercept, Clark's vessels suddenly scattered in all directions, using their smaller size and superior maneuverability to avoid the alien weapons. Classic misdirection, Clark reported over the communication channel. Enemy forces are pursuing phantom targets. While the aliens chased Clark's ships, Wright's main force struck the station itself. Using shield disruptors and conventional explosives, they disabled the facility's defenses in minutes. The third group, led by Captain Roy Barnes, swept in. To capture the alien ships while they were still confused and out of position, the entire battle lasted less than 30 minutes. When it was over, humanity had gained another major industrial facility and captured enough alien technology to outfit 3 more fleets? Any word from the other strike groups? Wright asked. All reporting success, his communications officer replied. The attacks on Vega Prime and Volf 359 both achieved their objectives. Enemy casualties are heavy. But Wright knew the real victory was not in the battles they had won. It was in the message they were sending to every species in the galaxy. The Galactic Council was not invincible. That message was being received by peoples who had suffered under Council rule for generations. On the distant world of Zephyr Prime, Ambassador John Hayes was discovering that humanity was not alone in its desire for freedom. Your species fights with great courage, said First Speaker Valen of the Zephyrian Republic. The tall, graceful. Being reminded Hayes of an elegant bird with feathered skin and large, intelligent eyes. We have watched your broadcasts with great interest. Hayes had no formal training in dealing with alien cultures, but he understood oppression when he saw it. How long have your people been under Council control? 3,000 of your years, Valen replied sadly. We were once a proud spacefaring civilization. Now we exist only to provide resources for their war machine. That can change, Hayes said simply. Help us, and we'll help you reclaim your freedom. The alliance that emerged from that meeting would reshape the galaxy. The Zephyrians provided detailed intelligence about Council military positions, supply routes, and internal politics. In return, humanity shared its shield disruption technology and tactical innovations. More importantly, the humans offered something no species had given the Zephyrians for millennia. Hope. Lisa Grant, now leading a mobile research fleet aboard the converted cargo ship Discovery, was making breakthroughs that accelerated human technological development beyond all expectations. Her team had discovered that the Galactic Council's power was not based solely on superior weapons or numbers. They control something called the network, she explained to President Carter during a secure communication. It's a system of ancient artifacts left behind by a vanished race. These artifacts maintain the infrastructure that allows their empire to function. What kind of infrastructure? Carter asked. Communication relays that enable instant contact across the galaxy. Jump gates that allow rapid movement of ships between star systems. Automated production facilities that build their weapons and ships. Carter studied the data Lisa had transmitted. Are you saying their entire empire depends on these artifacts? Exactly. If we can capture or destroy the key sites, we can cripple their ability to coordinate their forces. The strategic implications were staggering. Instead of fighting the entire Galactic Council at once, humanity could target the systems that held their empire together. The first major test of this strategy came at the Rigel Junction, a massive space station built around one of the ancient artifacts. The station served as a hub for Council military communications across an entire sector of the galaxy. Captain Ben Mitchell led the assault force, consisting of 15 human ships and 6 Zephyrian vessels. The station was heavily defended, but the human strategy was unlike anything the Council had seen before. We're not trying to capture the station, Mitchell explained to his fleet commanders. We're going to ram it. The plan was audacious even by human standards. 3 ships, loaded with quantum explosives and crewed by volunteers, would ram the station's key support structures while the rest of the fleet kept the defenders busy. The first volunteer was pilot Maria Santos, the same woman who had penetrated Admiral Crex's flagship months earlier. It's been an honor serving with you all, she transmitted as her ship began its final approach. Santos's ship struck the station's main communication array at nearly the speed of light. The explosion was visible from 3 star systems away. Within seconds, Council forces across an entire sector found themselves cut off from Central Command. "Communications array destroyed," reported Tactical Officer Kelly Murphy. "Enemy forces are attempting to retreat, but they can't coordinate their movements." The victory at Rigel Junction proved that human tactics could work on a galactic scale. More importantly, it demonstrated to oppressed species throughout the galaxy that the Council could be beaten. Rebellion spread like wildfire across Council territory. Species that had been enslaved for millennia began attacking their oppressors, with weapons and tactics learned from human broadcasts. The monolithic empire that had dominated the galaxy for millions of years began to crack and crumble. On Nexus Prime, High Counselor Vorth faced a reality he had never imagined possible. His empire was falling apart, and the cause was a single primitive species that should have been easily conquered. "Sir, we're receiving reports of uprisings in 47 systems," his aide reported. "The Andromedans have declared independence. The Tausetians have seized their orbital facilities. The Proxima colonies have destroyed their tribute ships." Vorth's crystal body pulsed with angry light. "Deploy the Starforge. It's time to end this rebellion permanently." The Starforge was the Council's ultimate weapon, a device capable of igniting stars and destroying entire solar systems. It had been used only twice in galactic history, both times to eliminate species that posed an existential threat to Council rule. "Sir, are you certain?" "Using the Starforge will destroy billions of innocent beings." "Then they should not have chosen to follow the humans," Vorth replied coldly. "Target Earth and all human colony worlds. If we cannot rule them, we will ensure." No one can, but the Council had made one critical error. They assumed the humans would not discover their plans until it was too late. They were wrong. The Galactic Council was fracturing from within. In the ornate chambers of Nexus Prime, species that had been allies for millions of years now faced each other with open hostility. The human rebellion had exposed deep cracks in the foundation of their empire. "The Crystalline Empire's arrogance has brought disaster upon us all," declared Ambassador Thex of the Etherean Collective. Her blue skin rippled with patterns of silver light, a sign of extreme agitation among her people. "We warned against awakening these humans, but Vorth refused to listen." High Counselor Vorth's diamond body blazed with angry light. "The fault lies not with our decisions, but with your species' weakness. The Etherians have been secretly supplying weapons to the human forces. We have done what is necessary for survival." Vex replied coolly, "These humans will win this war. When they do, those who helped them will be remembered favorably." The accusation sent shockwaves through the Council chamber. Other species began to whisper among themselves, wondering who else might be secretly supporting the human rebellion. Trust, the foundation of their ancient alliance, was crumbling. Meanwhile, in deep space near the Vega system, Captain Roy Barnes studied the tactical display aboard his stealth ship Phantom. His mission was the most dangerous any human had ever attempted, a direct assault on Nexus Prime itself. "All systems green," reported his navigator, Lieutenant Dave Wilson. "Stealth fields are holding. We should be invisible to their sensors." Barnes nodded grimly. His fleet of 12 ships had been modified with captured alien technology and upgraded with human innovations. They were faster and more maneuverable than anything the Council had seen before, but they were still massively outnumbered. "Remember the objective," Barnes told his crew. "We're not trying to conquer their capital. We just need to deliver our message and get out alive." The human fleet slipped through the outer defenses of the Nexus system like ghosts. Years of studying captured Council technology had taught human engineers how to fool alien sensors. By the time the defenders realized they were under attack, Barnes was already broadcasting on all Council communication frequencies. "This is Captain Roy Barnes of the Human Federation." His voice echoed through every Council facility in the system. "We bring you greetings from Earth and a simple message. We are coming." The effect was immediate and devastating. Panic spread through the civilian population as they realized that humans had penetrated the most secure system in the galaxy. Military commanders scrambled to intercept the human ships, but Barnes had already completed his mission. All ships execute withdrawal. Plan 7, Barnes ordered. Time to go home. The human fleet scattered in 12 different directions, using their superior speed to escape before the Council forces could organize an effective response. But the real damage had already been done. The message was not just for the Council leadership. It was for every oppressed species in the galaxy. If humans could reach Nexus Prime itself, they could reach anywhere. High Counselor Vorth stared at the tactical reports in fury and growing fear. The human raid had been a complete success, and now rebellion was spreading faster than ever. Entire sectors were declaring independence, and his own military forces were becoming unreliable. "Sir, we must deploy the Starforge immediately," urged General Cax of the Vorthek military. "If we wait any longer, the humans will discover its location." Vorth knew the general was right, but using the Starforge would be an admission that the mighty Galactic Council had been defeated by a primitive species. Still, desperate times called for desperate measures. Very well, Vorth decided, target Earth and all major human colonies. Prepare for immediate deployment. But unknown to Vorth, the Council had a spy problem. Intelligence operative Kate Murphy had been working deep undercover in Council territory for months, posing as a traitor from a minor species. Her mission had been to gather information about Council military capabilities, but she had stumbled onto something far more important. "I've located the Starforge," she transmitted to Earth using quantum communication technology that the Council could not intercept. "It's hidden in the Omega Nebula, heavily defended but vulnerable to the right kind of attack." Her message reached Admiral Steve Parker just as he was preparing to launch the largest human fleet ever assembled. 300 ships from Earth and its colonies, supported by vessels from 6 allied species, were gathering for what might be the final battle of the war. "Change of mission," Parker announced to his fleet commanders. "We're going after their superweapon." Dr. Lisa Grant, monitoring the preparations from her mobile laboratory, had one final piece of crucial intelligence to share. "The Starforge requires specific harmonic frequencies to function," she reported. "The same frequencies we learned to disrupt months ago. If we can get close enough, we can shut it down permanently." The race against time began as human forces, led by Admiral Parker, launched a desperate assault on the most heavily fortified position in the galaxy. The Starforge was protected by over 200 Council warships and defensive platforms that could destroy planets, but humanity was no longer fighting alone. Zephyrian ships provided electronic warfare support, jamming Council communications and sensor systems. Andromedan vessels used their advanced shield technology to protect human assault craft. Even some Council species had secretly switched sides, providing intelligence and tactical support. The battle that followed would be remembered as the largest space engagement in recorded galactic history. Ships from dozens of species clashed in the swirling gases of the Omega Nebula, their weapons lighting up the cosmos like a deadly fireworks display. The tide of battle turned when Captain Amy Foster, now commanding a battle group of 50 ships, implemented a tactic that had never been tried before in space combat. Her vessels, loaded with quantum explosives and piloted by volunteers, began ramming attacks against the largest Council ships. "This is Foster to all human vessels," she transmitted, as her own ship began its final approach toward a massive Council dreadnought. "Remember why we fight. For Earth, for freedom, for the future of all species." Her ship struck the enemy vessel amidships, the explosion tearing through both vessels and lighting up the nebula. Within minutes, dozens of other human ships followed her example, trading their lives for the destruction of much larger enemy vessels. The sight of human crews deliberately sacrificing themselves to destroy their enemies broke the morale of many Council forces. Species that had never seen such dedication to a cause began to question why they were fighting for an empire that saw them as expendable. "Sir, multiple Council ships are withdrawing from the battle," reported Parker's tactical officer. "Their formation is collapsing." Parker saw his chance. "All ships, final assault on the Starforge. This is our moment." The climactic assault began as human forces, supported by their alien allies, converged on the massive weapon platform. The Starforge was larger than most space stations, its surface bristling with defensive weapons and shield generators, but the humans had learned the platform's weakness from Kate Murphy's intelligence. A small team led by engineer Sam Martinez managed to infiltrate the weapons control center, fighting their way through automated defenses and Vorthok security forces. Shield harmonics disrupted, Martinez reported as his team reached the main control room. The Starforge is shutting down. The explosion that followed could be seen from neighboring star systems. The Council's ultimate weapon, their final guarantee of continued dominance, had been destroyed by the very species they had sought to eliminate. On Nexus Prime, High Counselor Vorth received the news in stunned silence. His empire was in ruins, his ultimate weapon destroyed, and his own species turning against him. The age of the Galactic Council was ending, and the age of humanity had begun. The galaxy was burning, but from the ashes of the old order, something new was being born. 3 years had passed since the destruction of the Starforge, and the remnants of the Galactic Council continued to fight bitter wars against each other. Former allies had become enemies as the great empire collapsed into feuding factions. Admiral Helen Carter, daughter of the former Earth president, stood on the observation deck of the diplomatic vessel New Hope as it approached the war-torn system of Altair Prime. The once beautiful garden world was now scarred by orbital bombardments and ground battles between competing council factions. Preliminary scans show massive civilian casualties, reported her aide, Commander Lisa Park. The Crystalline Empire and Vorthok hegemony have been fighting over this system for 8 months. Helen studied the tactical display with tired eyes. She had seen too many worlds like this over the past year, planets devastated by wars between species that had once been part of the same empire. Signal both fleets. Tell them the Human Federation is offering mediation. The response was immediate and hostile from both sides. The Crystalline Commander accused humanity of supporting their enemies, while the Vorthok Admiral claimed the humans were biased against their species. It was a familiar pattern that Helen had encountered on dozens of worlds. They'll negotiate, she told her crew with confidence born of experience. They always do, eventually. 3 days later, representatives from both factions sat across from each other in the conference room of the New Hope. High Admiral Zix of the Crystalline Fleet and General Thok of the Vorthok forces glared at each other with millennia of hatred, but both were exhausted by the endless fighting. The humans offer a simple proposal, Helen explained. Joint administration of Altair Prime under Federation oversight. Both your species can maintain mining rights, but the civilian population will be protected by neutral peacekeeping forces. Why should we trust human mediation? General Thok demanded. Your species destroyed our empire. Helen's response was calm but firm. We offered you partnership instead of conquest. The choice to fight was yours. The negotiations lasted for weeks, but eventually both sides agreed to the human proposal. It was becoming a pattern across the galaxy. Species that had been enemies for eons were learning to work together under human guidance. Meanwhile, Captain Ben Mitchell commanded the Reconstruction Fleet, a massive engineering operation dedicated to rebuilding worlds devastated by the Council. Wars, his flagship, the Builder, carried advanced manufacturing equipment and humanitarian supplies to systems throughout the galaxy. Status report on the Proxima project, Mitchell requested from his chief engineer. The new orbital habitats are 60% complete, replied engineer Carol Davis. We should have housing for 2 million refugees within 6 months. The Proxima system had been one of the first to rebel against Council rule, but the uprising had been brutally suppressed before human forces could intervene. Now, human engineering teams worked alongside survivors from 12 different species to rebuild their shattered worlds. Sir, we're receiving a priority message from Dr. Grant, reported the communications officer. Mitchell smiled as Lisa Grant's familiar face appeared on the screen. She was older now, her hair gray with the stress of years of war, but her eyes still sparkled with scientific curiosity. Ben, I need your engineering teams at the Vega Research Station as soon as possible, she said without preamble. We've made a breakthrough with the ancient artifacts. The Galactic Research Institute had been established on the ruins of a former Council military base, becoming a symbol of the new era. Scientists from over 50 species worked together in the gleaming laboratories, sharing knowledge that had been hoarded by the Council for millions of years. Dr. Grant walked through the main research hall, where human and alien scientists collaborated on projects that would have been impossible under the old regime. Here, a team of Zephyrian quantum physicists worked with human engineers to develop new faster-than-light communication systems. There, Andromedan biologists shared genetic research with Earth doctors to cure diseases that had plagued multiple species for millennia. Show me what you've discovered, Mitchell said when he arrived at the Institute. Grant led him to a massive chamber where one of the ancient artifacts hummed with mysterious energy. The device was clearly not built by any current galactic species, its crystalline structure pulsing with patterns of light that seemed to follow mathematical principles beyond current understanding. We've learned to interface with the artifact's data storage systems, Grant explained excitedly. The precursor race that built these devices left behind incredible knowledge, technologies that could solve resource scarcity, eliminate disease, even extend the lifespan of entire species. Mitchell studied the alien device with wonder. And you're sharing this information with everyone? Of course, Grant replied as if the question was absurd. Knowledge belongs to all species, not just the powerful ones. It was this philosophy that had made humanity's leadership so revolutionary. Instead of using their military victories to establish a new empire, they had created something unprecedented in galactic history, a voluntary alliance of equals. The formal ceremony establishing the Galactic Assembly took place on New Nexus, built on the site of the former Council capital. Representatives from over 300 species gathered in the Great Hall, their diverse forms creating a rainbow of colors and shapes that would have been impossible to imagine just years before. Representative Julie Morgan of the Human Federation stood at the podium, looking out at the assembled delegates. She had been chosen for this honor not because of military rank or political power, but because she represented the ideals that had made humanity's revolution successful. 10 years ago, the Galactic Council made what they considered a simple decision, she began. They chose to contact a primitive species on a small planet in an unremarkable star system. They expected easy conquest and quick submission. Laughter rippled through the assembly as representatives remembered the arrogance of the old regime. Instead, they awakened something they never expected, the power of hope. Not just human hope, but the hope of every species that dreamed of freedom. Julie paused to look at the diverse crowd before her. Former enemies sat side by side. Species that had been enslaved for millennia now participated as equals in galactic governance. Today, we establish not just a new government, but a new principle. That strength comes not from domination, but from cooperation. That diversity is not a weakness to be eliminated, but a treasure to be celebrated. That the future belongs not to the strongest or the most advanced, but to those willing to stand together. The vote to establish the Galactic Assembly was unanimous. For the first time in recorded history, the galaxy had a government based on consent rather than conquest. As the ceremony concluded, Julie walked out onto the observation balcony overlooking the city of New Nexus. The skyline was a blend of architectural styles from dozens of worlds, creating something beautiful and unique. In the gardens below, she could see children from many different species playing together. Human children shared games with young Zephyrians, while Andromedan youngsters taught Earth kids to manipulate gravitational fields. It was a sight that would have been impossible under the old regime. Thinking about the future? Asked a familiar voice behind her. Julie turned to see Dr. Grant approaching, now bearing the title of Director of Galactic Scientific Cooperation. Despite her age, she still moved with the energy of someone driven by endless curiosity. I was thinking about the past, Julie replied. About how the Council's greatest mistake became the galaxy's greatest opportunity, Grant nodded thoughtfully. They wanted to preserve their power by destroying their opposition. Instead, they taught us that true strength comes from lifting others up rather than holding them down. Together, they watched the sun set over New Nexus, painting the diverse skyline in shades of gold and crimson. In the distance, ships from 100 worlds came and went, carrying trade goods, scientific data, and cultural exchanges that were enriching every corner of the galaxy. The Galactic Council had sought to maintain their dominance by crushing a single primitive species. Instead, they had awakened humanity's greatest gift, the ability to inspire others to become more than they ever imagined possible. The Age of Empires was over. The Age of Cooperation had begun, and in the gardens of New Nexus, children who would never know the fear of galactic tyranny played together under alien stars, building friendships that would shape the future of countless worlds. The galaxy had learned the most important lesson of all, that true civilization was measured not by the power to destroy, but by the wisdom to create.